I'm reacting today to another video from CJ Cornthwaite, which is all about why deconstruction is happening in the evangelical church. It's kind of a reaction video, although I'm not watching it for the first time. And I'm certainly not going to pull him apart because everything that I've heard him say so far is pretty spot on. Here's a biblical scholar who has deconstructed his faith. And in this video, he spells out 4 reasons he thinks people are deconstructing. But here's my takeaway. I've lived my entire life with these same teachings, and I've been condemned for it by the evangelical church that these guys are supposedly leaving in droves. I think there's one important caveat to state right up front. Perhaps the Australian situation is a bit different from the US and Canada. There certainly are evangelical churches here who will condemn me for what I'm about to say, but I personally know of some who wouldn't. Rather, they welcome the debate and even welcome my company. However, I do suspect that in reality there are good, open, and intellectually honest evangelical churches everywhere. The challenge is finding them, because I suspect that they're the less vocal ones.
It was about 15 years ago when I first realized that I didn't really believe Christianity anymore. And I did spend a little bit of time as an atheist, agnostic, whatever, and I came back. So I'm calling this 4 reasons people are deconstructing Christianity. One of the first and maybe most obvious reasons that Christians are deconstructing is because they realize that some or all of Christianity isn't true. I could see, for example, that the Trinity was largely made up, wasn't really an original Christian idea, but was put back into Christianity at the two councils of Nicaea in the 4th century. And you start to look at these things and you think, wait, the people who taught me to believe in the Trinity, for example, didn't know this.
Emanuel Swedenborg teaches there is one God. In true Christian religion, he says, the 3 essentials, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, make one in the Lord as the soul, body, and activity do in a person.
The second big reason is to do with the church's implicit power structure, control, and sort of toxic effects on people's lives. That can't be the way that God relates to the world. It can't be that an all-loving God came to the world just so that he could give you the right to have power over me and to tell me how to live my life. And this is, frankly, why I think a lot of people are deconstructing, because of this exact toxic power structure that many, many religious communities uphold.
Swedenborg writes, nothing is in any way pleasing to the Lord that is not done in freedom, that is, spontaneously or willingly. For when anyone worships the Lord under circumstances in which he is not free, he worships with nothing of himself. In that case, he's moved under compulsion, the internal being non-existent or else incompatible and even contradictory. It's been the same in some regards in the new church that follows Emanuel Swedenborg's writings, but I do think that Swedenborg's teaching on freedom stopped what I think may well be the worst of those excesses.
The third reason a lot of people are deconstructing is because of ridiculous views of the Bible. Biblical inerrancy is nonsense. You do not need to believe the Bible is inerrant to be a Christian. It was invented in the 19th and 20th century. This is not something you need to believe. But evangelicalism as a movement has created a world where they're constantly trying to justify these ridiculous, nonsensical beliefs about the Bible, that it's a science textbook, that the Bible is our perfect answer for everything jurisprudential, that the Bible tells us how to live a moral life, even though the God of the Old Testament was a vicious asshole who killed a lot of people and commanded genocide again and again and again.
Swedenborg's always seen the Bible as a spiritual book. And this is a different interpretation from Chris, who holds an interest in the historical aspects of the text, whereas Swedenborg suggests that it has a spiritual focus.
I think the fourth and final big reason why people are deconstructing is just exposure. It's fairly easy to have a very narrow view of the world when you, like me, I grew up in a town that we were mostly white and we were mostly Christians of some sort. And the enemy, the big scary enemy, was the Catholic Church across town. So then imagine being that kid and going out of your, maybe small town, or at very least small thinking environment that you grew up in, and going to college and being with people from all over the world who have all different beliefs, who have different religious traditions, different ethnic traditions. You can do one of two things. You can either stick your head in the sand and say, these people are all going to hell and I need to convert them all. Once you make friends with somebody from another world and start to have your beliefs challenged, and like, hey, this Muslim friend of mine prays a lot like I do, even though they have very different beliefs, but they still talk to God. Or this Jewish friend of mine knows the Bible better than me, or whatever. It's really hard to just keep your faith in that box.
My dad was also a Swedenborgian pastor. And when I was a teenager, he took me into Glasgow to pick up some radio broadcast equipment. While we were there, we met another guy, and I think he even helped us load the equipment into the car. And on the way home, my dad commented to me, "That guy that we met, he's gay. He's no different from you or I, is he?" And the second story revolves around interfaith activities. One of my colleagues once described the interfaith movement as more intellectually honest than the ecumenical movement, which tends to be very selective in who it admits. Now, I have to say I am currently involved in an ecumenical group for the first time in 20 years, but there are churches in our area who do not join that group precisely because of me and other Christian groups such as Christian Science who are welcomed there. So my message to you, if you're deconstructing, is that there's always been an alternative. It's an alternative that the Evangelical Church has historically condemned and continues to dislike to this day. And maybe it's time you discover it.